I never thought I'd be standing here, outside a courthouse, watching my son walk away from me. The sting of his words, "I don't want to be with you," pierces me deeper than any knife ever could. I see her, Emily, my ex-wife, holding his hand, whispering something into his ear, probably more lies. My hands tremble, not from anger this time, but from the crushing weight of loss. It's been 5 years. 5 years since everything collapsed, since she ripped my heart apart and took my boys. How do you explain to your children that the person they trust most in the world destroyed their family? But I'm not here to complain. I'm here to tell you my story. Maybe you'll understand me. Maybe not. Either way, I need to get this out. It all started with small changes. Emily began staying late at work, telling me she had projects to finish or meetings that ran late. I trusted her. She was my wife, the mother of our 2 boys, Ethan and Liam. We had been married for 4 years, and while things weren't perfect, I thought we were happy. The first time I suspected something was off, it was a Friday night. She came home smelling like cologne that wasn't mine. I asked her about it, and she shrugged it off, saying it was from a coworker who hugged her goodbye. I believed her. I wanted to believe her. But then, the late nights became more frequent. I could feel her slipping away, emotionally distancing herself from me and the boys. When I confronted her, she swore nothing was going on. I was paranoid, she said, but deep down, I knew something was wrong. The truth hit me like a sledgehammer one cold December evening. She was texting someone, laughing at her phone like she hadn't done with me in months. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed her phone, and there it was, messages from another man. Mark, her coworker. My heart shattered. That was the past. That moment was when my life fell apart. She didn't even try to deny it. Just told me she was sorry, and that it just happened. The worst part? She took the boys, manipulated them into believing I was some kind of monster. I spiraled after that. I couldn't handle the betrayal, the loneliness, the loss. I started drinking, isolated myself from friends and family. The nights were the hardest. The silence of an empty house echoed my failures, and soon, the thoughts came. Dark thoughts, ones that told me the pain would end if I just let go. I attempted self-harm once. It was a blur, but I remember waking up in a hospital bed, realizing I was still here. My kids were still out there, and even if they hated me, they deserved a father. That was the turning point, because they're worth it. It wasn't easy. I had no job, no purpose, and my confidence was shattered. Waking up every morning felt like a battle, and more often than not, I didn't have the strength to fight. The house was quiet, too quiet. It was hard not to think of how Ethan and Liam's laughter once filled these walls. But they were gone, and so was my sense of self. I could barely look in the mirror. I hated the man I saw staring back. He was weak, broken, and hollow. I started small, though. I had to. At first, it was just about getting out of bed. I'd force myself up, take a shower, and remind myself that I still had a reason to keep going. My boys were still out there, even if they hated me, and I couldn't give up on them. Finding work was harder than I expected. I was unemployed for months, sending out resumes and attending interviews with little hope. When rejection after rejection came, I thought about giving up more times than I'd like to admit. It wasn't just about finding a job. It was about rebuilding a life that had crumbled to dust. No one knew how far I had fallen except me. I had to do something, even if it felt hopeless. One day I took a chance. I overheard 2 men talking at a cafe about needing some help for a small project. They were starting a new business, something in landscaping, and were short on hands. I'd never done anything like it before, but I approached them anyway, offering my services. I didn't care what it was as long as it kept me moving. The work was grueling. Long hours outside, under the hot sun, hauling heavy equipment, digging holes, planting trees, physical labor that left my body aching and sore. But for the first time in a long while, it felt like I was doing something. The exhaustion was a welcome distraction from the emptiness I felt inside. I stuck with them for a year. Over time, I started learning the ropes, and eventually I realized I had a knack for it. Something about working with my hands grounded me. It was honest work, and the satisfaction of seeing a barren patch of land transformed into something beautiful made me feel like maybe, just maybe, I could rebuild my life too. With the money I saved from that first job, I took a risk and started my own small landscaping business. At first, it was just me working out of my old beat-up truck, doing whatever jobs I could find, mowing lawns, planting gardens, maintaining properties. Word spread slowly, but I kept at it, and soon enough, I started getting more clients. The work didn't just help me financially, it helped me mentally. Every tree I planted, every lawn I mowed, every garden I designed, it felt like I was planting seeds of hope for myself. I was transforming not just the landscapes I worked on, but my own life. By the end of the second year, I had hired 2 more guys to help, and my business was finally starting to turn a profit. It wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me going. The focus I put into my business gave me something to pour my energy into, something other than my pain. And with every small victory, I felt a little piece of myself coming back. But even as my business grew, the emptiness from losing my kids never went away. I knew that making money and rebuilding my career wasn't enough. I had to fight for Ethan and Liam. That's when the legal battle started. I hired a lawyer, started gathering evidence, and prepared myself for the fight of my life. Now, as I stand here outside the courthouse, I realize that this fight isn't just a legal one. It's personal. The system itself feels designed to break you. The endless hearings, the lawyers, the waiting, it's enough to make any man want to throw in the towel. But not me. I can't. The first few years were hell. Emily made it clear from the start that she wasn't going to make this easy. She painted me as an unfit father, dragged up every mistake I'd ever made. My depression, my drinking, my struggle to get back on my feet. And while I was clawing my way out of the dark, she was feeding our boys lies about me. I was a villain in their eyes, a man who had abandoned them, who didn't care. But I kept fighting. I showed up to every hearing, every mediation. I gave everything I had to prove that I was still their father, that I deserved to be in their lives. Even when the court ruled against me, limiting my visitation, I didn't back down. I couldn't let her lies win. I had to believe that one day the truth would come out, that my boys would see me for who I really am. Finally, after nearly 3 years of court battles, I won partial custody of Ethan. It wasn't full custody, but it was something. 1 weekend a month at first, then every other weekend. At first, he didn't even want to come. He barely looked at me, spent most of the time on his phone, ignoring me. And when he did talk, it was only to ask when he could go back to his mom's.
Those weekends were some of the loneliest I've ever had. I was trying so hard, trying to connect with my son, to make up for all the lost time, but it felt like I was talking to a wall. The guilt, the frustration, it all came rushing back. I questioned if it was even worth it, if I was really doing the right thing by forcing him to be with me when he clearly didn't want to be. But deep down, I knew I couldn't give up. I couldn't let Emily's lies be the only thing he knew about me. So, I kept talking. Even when he ignored me, I kept sharing stories about when he was little, about how proud I was of him, about the good times we used to have as a family. Slowly, and I mean slowly, things started to change. I remember the first time he laughed at one of my dumb jokes. It wasn't much, a small chuckle, but it was enough to give me hope. Over time, he started asking me questions, little things at first, like how my business was doing or what I had been up to. And then, one day, he asked me why I left. I could see the pain in his eyes, the confusion, and I knew that was the moment I had been waiting for. The moment where I could finally tell him the truth. Those weeks I didn't bash his mother. I couldn't do that, no matter how much she had hurt me. But I told him my side of the story. I told him how much I had fought for him and Liam, how much I still loved them, and how much it killed me to be away from them. It wasn't easy. There were tears, on both sides, but it was a start. For the first time, I felt like we were rebuilding something, but the fight wasn't over. It may never be. Liam still refuses to talk to me, and I can't blame him. Emily has a strong hold over him, and I know it'll take time for him to come around. But I'm patient. I've learned to be. 5 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to handle this kind of waiting. I would have broken under the weight of it. But now? Now I know how to endure. The legal battles may be over, but the emotional ones are still raging. I know I can't force my boys to love me. All I can do is show up, every day, and be the father they deserve. I know it'll take time, maybe years, but I'm in this for the long haul. I have to be, because no matter how long it takes, I'll never stop fighting for them. They're my boys, and I'll do whatever it takes to bring them back, not just into my life, but into my heart, one day at a time. One conversation at a time. Slowly, I'm reclaiming them, just like I reclaimed my life, and maybe, just maybe, we'll all be whole again one day.